The 7 crystalline ships descended through Earth's atmosphere with impossible grace, their hulls shimmering with colors humans had no names for. As they touched down on the United Nations Plaza in New York, crowds gathered behind hastily erected barricades, their faces a mixture of terror and wonder. Dr. Martinez stepped forward as the designated representative, her translator device clutched tightly in trembling hands. The first alien to emerge from the central ship moved like flowing water, its crystalline body catching sunlight and fracturing it into patterns that seemed to speak directly to the human mind. "We are Luminex of the Luminar," the beings translated. Voice resonated in everyone's earpieces. "We bring knowledge, technology, and warning." Behind Luminex, representatives of the other 6 species emerged, each more alien than the last. The assembled human security forces unconsciously tightened their grips on weapons that suddenly seemed absurdly primitive. General Jackson leaned toward Dr. Martinez and whispered, "Ask them why they chose us. There must be other civilizations, more advanced than ours." Martinez nodded and conveyed the question. Luminex's body shifted, the light patterns becoming more complex. "We have visited 3,422 worlds in our exodus. Many were more advanced than yours. All of them are gone now." The alien gestured toward the sky. "The Void Heralds do not discriminate, but they follow patterns. The more ordered and advanced a civilization, the more quickly they fall." On the massive screens erected around the plaza, images appeared of worlds unlike anything humans had imagined. Crystal cities orbiting neutron stars, living planets where the entire biosphere functioned as one entity. Gas giant civilizations, where beings made of plasma had built networks spanning millions of kilometers. "All consumed," Luminex continued. "But your species..." The alien made a sound that the translator couldn't process, something between laughter and song. "Your species is beautifully unpredictable. You fight when logic dictates surrender. You cooperate when self-interest suggests betrayal. Your evolution was chaotic, unguided, resulting in redundancies and inefficiencies that have somehow become strengths." The screen shifted to show human history, wars, disasters, triumphs, failures, all condensed into a breathtaking montage. "The Concordiat believes you might be the variable the Void Heralds cannot account for," Luminex said. "We offer an alliance of necessity. We bring technologies that might have taken you millennia to develop. In return, we ask for your most human quality, the ability to defy expectation." Dr. Martinez found her voice at last. "And if we refuse?" The alien's crystalline form darkened momentarily. "Then we will continue our journey, and your world will face the heralds alone. They are already within your solar system, consuming your outermost planet as we speak." The screens shifted one final time, showing Neptune's blue atmosphere being devoured by writhing darkness. The crowd fell silent as the terrible truth sank in. Humanity's first contact wouldn't be its last, unless they could somehow become the first species to survive what was coming. The Geneva Conference Center had been transformed overnight. 7 distinct environmental chambers now occupied the main hall, each tailored to the biological needs of the Concordiat species. Human diplomats and scientists moved between these alien habitats, struggling to grasp the implications of what they were learning. Dr. Martinez paused before entering the Moravian chamber, adjusting her neural interface. The device, a marvel of alien technology that would have won multiple Nobel Prizes under normal circumstances, now seemed almost ordinary amid the wonders surrounding them. "Ready?" asked Professor Chen, her neurobiologist colleague. Martinez nodded, and they stepped into the mist-filled chamber. The water tank at its center rippled as 3 Moravians approached, their tentacled forms undulating gracefully. The neural link activated, and suddenly Martinez felt her consciousness expand, touching the edges of the Moravian hive mind. "We welcome you to shared thought," came the collective voice, not heard but experienced directly. "Your individuality is fascinating." Martinez struggled to maintain her sense of self within the overwhelming presence of their joined consciousness. Through the link, she glimpsed flashes of Moravian history, a species that had evolved past individual thought 50,000 years ago. Achieving perfect efficiency through shared purpose. How do you innovate without individual perspective? She managed to ask through the interface. The Moravian response carried a sense of confusion. Innovation follows logical progression. Why would one deviate from optimal paths? In the next chamber, General Jackson was having a similar revelation with the Draconid warriors. The reptilian aliens demonstrated weapons that could selectively destroy matter at the subatomic level. With this technology, you could have conquered hundreds of worlds, Jackson observed. Why didn't you? The Draconid commander, scales shifting in patterns denoting confusion, replied, "Conquest is inefficient. Resources are best preserved through cooperation." Throughout the facility, similar conversations unfolded. The Thraxi showed agricultural scientists how to grow a year's crop in minutes. The Vorath merged temporarily with computer systems, upgrading Earth's internet to quantum efficiency levels. The Xylene exchanged genetic memories with human historians, preserving Earth's cultural heritage in their living database. Yet something felt off to Martinez. These species, with their millions of years of advancement, seemed almost naive in their perfection. The pattern became clear during the emergency session. As footage of Neptune's destruction played on screens, the Concordiat representatives presented their strategic assessment, a flawless, logical defense plan that would save 93.7% of Earth's population. President Okafor of the African Union stood up. And the other 6.3%, that's nearly 600 million people. The Krith ambassador, a silicon giant whose movements seemed to happen in slow motion, replied, "Regrettably, optimal resource allocation cannot protect all regions equally. The calculation is sound." A murmur of shock ran through the human delegates. Colonel Wei, who had been silent until now, laughed sharply. "That's the difference between us," he said, rising to his feet. "Your perfection has become your weakness. You've evolved past desperation, past the chaos that breeds innovation." He pointed to the image of the advancing heralds. "But we haven't. And that's exactly what those things won't expect." The war room beneath the Rocky Mountains fell silent as Colonel Wei finished his presentation. On the holographic display, centuries of human warfare played out in miniature. Guerrilla fighters defeating mechanized armies, sailing ships outmaneuvering, superior vessels and desperate last stands that somehow turned the tide of history. "This is how humans fight when we're outmatched," Wei said, gesturing to the images. "We've been practicing for this moment our entire existence." The Krith ambassador, whose silicon body had remained motionless for hours, finally stirred. "Your tactics rely on emotion, on instinct. The Void Heralds have no emotion to exploit." "But they have patterns," Wei countered. "You said yourself they're drawn to order. They expect resistance to follow logical progressions." He switched the display to show the Neptune research station's final moments. "Look there. See how they concentrated on your defensive grid first? They recognized its pattern and adapted." "Doctor," Martinez stepped forward, her eyes red from days without sleep. "The Concordiat has been fighting this war like a chess match, with perfect moves and countermoves. But humans invented games beyond chess." She brought up an ancient video game interface. "Sometimes we create games with deliberate randomness, where perfect play is impossible." The Luminar representative's crystalline form flickered with skepticism. "You suggest we abandon strategic planning for chaos?" "Controlled chaos," Wei corrected. "Unpredictability within framework, the art of fighting without patterns." Outside the mountain complex, the sky darkened unnaturally as reports came in, of Uranus beginning to vanish. Humanity had perhaps weeks before the heralds reached Earth. In a private moment, Martinez found Wei staring at old photographs. His family, lost in the resource wars that had scarred both his face and soul. "You really believe we can win this?" she asked quietly. Wei didn't look up. "Win? No. Survive? Maybe." He finally met her gaze. "The Concordiat chose us because they've exhausted all logical options. They need the irrational now." "The irrational being humanity," Martinez said with a slight smile. "Exactly." Wei tucked the photos away. "Consider our history. We've survived ice ages with sticks and stones. We've endured plagues that killed half our population. We've survived our own nuclear, weapons and climate collapse. His scarred face hardened. We're cockroaches, Doctor. Impossible to eradicate completely because we never fight the same way twice. The emergency klaxon interrupted them. Saturn's rings were showing the first signs of herald consumption, far ahead of projected timelines. As they hurried back to the command center, they passed the Xylene ambassador, its insectoid form hunched over Earth historical texts. Your Colonel Wei fascinates me, it chittered. In our evolutionary history, we eliminated the gene sequences that produce such disruptive individuals. We considered them evolutionary dead ends. Martinez paused. And yet here he is planning your survival strategy. The Xylean's compound eyes reflected the emergency lights. Perhaps that was our first mistake of many. Perhaps chaos has its purpose after all. Dr. Sophia Williams closed her eyes as the hybrid fighter craft's neural interface synchronized with her consciousness. The sensation was overwhelming, like suddenly growing wings and feeling wind currents directly through extended nerves. The luminar crystal technology merged with her mind, transforming thought into action without delay. Neural sync complete, she whispered, opening her eyes to see the Nevada desert from a perspective no human pilot had ever experienced. This isn't just flying. This is becoming the aircraft. Through the communication link, she heard the luminar instructor's voice, tinged with what might have been admiration. Your adaptation rate exceeds our models. Most species require 17 cycles to achieve partial synchronization. Williams laughed, executing a maneuver that should have been impossible for a first-time pilot. That's because you're teaching us wrong. Don't tell humans the rules. Tell us the goal and let us figure out our own way there. Back at the base, technicians monitored her flight with astonishment. Among them, Dr. Chen watched Williams's neural patterns fluctuate wildly on the displays. She's not following the sync protocols at all, Chen remarked. She's improvising the neural interface. The Vorath observer, a swirling mist contained in a specialized field, rippled with what might have been concern. Improvisation creates inefficiencies. Chen smiled. Inefficiencies that the heralds won't expect. In the quantum simulation chamber nearby, Williams had made her breakthrough the previous night. While examining herald energy signatures, she'd noticed something remarkable. Playing Box-Goldberg variations caused subtle resonance effects in the herald patterns. They aren't random, she'd explained to skeptical Concordiat scientists. They're following cosmic harmonic principles like music with rules we don't fully understand yet. She demonstrated by altering the frequency of the simulation, causing the projected herald patterns to momentarily destabilize. We don't need to outfight them. We need to disrupt their harmony. Colonel Wei had immediately authorized global production of Williams's frequency disruptors, despite the Concordiat's concerns about untested technology. Humanity couldn't afford perfect solutions anymore. They needed results. Across Earth, similar scenes of desperate innovation unfolded. In Brazilian rainforests, special forces learned to merge their movements with Thraxi biological extensions, becoming nearly invisible predators. In Siberian bunkers, Russian quantum engineers fused human AI systems with Vorath consciousness technology, creating defense networks that constantly rewrote their own programming. Most remarkably, in Kenya's Rift Valley, local trackers taught bewildered Draconid warriors to hunt without technology, using ancient methods that relied on intuition rather than perfect data. Your hunting approach is inefficient, the Draconid commander complained as a Kenyan tracker showed him how to read subtle signs in trampled grass. The tracker, a woman named Nala, whose family had passed down these skills for generations, simply smiled. When the power fails and your sensors go dark, efficiency won't matter. Survival will. She pointed to barely visible marks that told of an animal's passage. This is how we've hunted for thousands of years before technology. This is how we'll fight when your perfect weapons fail. The Draconid fell silent, finally understanding what the Concordiat had sought on Earth. Not just allies, but teachers of forgotten ways. Captain Aisha Okoro pressed her back against the maintenance tunnel wall as another tremor shook Olympus City. Through her neural feed, She watched the Concordiat's perfect defensive formations crumble against the Herald's onslaught. The alien allies had deployed their most sophisticated weapons, gravity manipulators that could fold space, consciousness disruptors that should have fragmented any organized entity, matter phase inverters that could convert solid objects to energy. None of it was working. "They're adapting too quickly," her second-in-command Rodriguez whispered. "It's like they're reading the Concordiat's playbook." Aisha nodded grimly. "That's exactly what's happening. The aliens fight with perfect logic, but the Heralds consume logic." She gestured to her mining crew, 12 men and women who'd been tunneling beneath the Martian surface when the attack began. None were soldiers. All were survivors. "Command wants us to evacuate to the last shuttles," Rodriguez said, checking his comms. "They're riding off Mars." Aisha's eyes narrowed as she studied the feed showing a massive Herald mothership hovering above the main dome. The structure's energy readings pulsed with a strange rhythm that reminded her of heartbeats. "What's that Vorith phase technology they installed in Sector 7? She asked suddenly. Rodriguez blinked. "The matter transition system? It's for emergency evacuations, but it's not rated for combat use." A slow smile spread across Aisha's dust-streaked face. "Perfect. That's exactly why the Heralds won't expect it." She turned to her crew. "We're going to need our drilling equipment, the phase tech components, and every power cell you can salvage." "Captain, what are you planning?" Rodriguez asked. "Something extremely stupid and completely unauthorized," Aisha replied. "The kind of plan only desperate humans would attempt." 2 hours later, as the Herald mothership began systematically dismantling Olympus City's central dome, Aisha's team activated their hybrid creation deep below the surface. They had combined industrial mining drills with Vorith phase technology, creating unstable tunneling devices that could theoretically phase through any matter, including the mothership's energy core. 78% chance of catastrophic failure, warned the mining crew's AI. Aisha tightened her grip on the makeshift control panel. "And 22% chance we save a lot of lives. I've gambled with worse odds in the mines." She locked eyes with her team. "Either we die here, or we give these darkness monsters something to remember humans by." When they activated the hybrid technology, the resulting energy cascade exceeded all predictions. The improper integration of human and alien technology created a reaction the Heralds couldn't anticipate or counter. The mothership imploded, taking a significant portion of Mars's atmosphere with it. As evacuation ships raced toward Earth, the Krith commander intercepted Aisha's team at the docking bay. The ancient silicon being studied them with unreadable, crystal eyes. "You knowingly sacrificed a planetary colony," it stated. Aisha met the commander's gaze unflinchingly, clutching a bag of salvaged Herald technology fragments. "We sacrificed real estate to gain knowledge. The planet was already lost, but now we know they can be hurt." Lightning crackled across New Delhi's ancient skyline as the Moravian command ship plummeted from the clouds, its crystalline hull fracturing against the centuries-old red fort. The impact sent shockwaves through the already battered city, where desperate fighting had raged for 18 hours. Commander Prisha Sharma ducked as debris scattered across the makeshift command post. Her neural link with the Moravian collective had gone silent moments before the crash. Something she'd been told was impossible. "Their hive mind is gone," she reported to Colonel Wei over the emergency channel. "They're in complete disarray." Through the dust and smoke, Sharma spotted the surviving Moravians stumbling from their wrecked vessel. Unlike their usual coordinated movements, they floundered like newborns, their tentacled forms trembling with what could only be described as panic. They had never experienced individual consciousness in their species' recorded history. A street child, one of many orphans who had refused evacuation, darted from a nearby alley. Before Sharma could shout a warning, the child approached the disoriented aliens and took their tentacled appendages, tugging them toward the sewer entrance. To Sharma's astonishment, the Moravians followed, allowing themselves to be led into the labyrinthine passages beneath the city, passages too chaotic and unpredictable for heralds to effectively navigate. "The children are saving them," she whispered, understanding blooming. The heralds can't predict human children. They're the most chaotic beings in the universe. Across the planet, similar scenes of improvised cooperation unfolded. Off Japan's coast, the Russian submarine Nevsky had integrated Thraxi biological components into its hull, creating a hybrid vessel that could photosynthesize oxygen directly from seawater. Captain Petrov had modified the alien technology against every specification, creating a vessel that could remain submerged indefinitely, hidden from herald detection. Your modifications violate 17 fundamental biological principles, the Thraxi representative had protested during implementation. Petrov had simply shrugged. Principles are luxury of peacetime. We have war now. In Australia's scorched outback, Aboriginal Elder Waru led a disoriented squadron of Draconid warriors along songlines, ancient pathways connecting sacred sites that somehow confused herald tracking systems. The reptilian aliens, despite their advanced neural mapping abilities, couldn't comprehend how humans navigated using stories and spiritual connections rather than coordinates. But perhaps most remarkably, in Silicon Valley's last standing research center, programmer Maya Ito had done the unthinkable. As a dying Vorith's gaseous form began to dissipate, she had voluntarily connected her neural interface directly to its consciousness, creating an unprecedented hybrid entity capable of maintaining Earth's defensive networks while constantly changing their patterns faster than heralds could adapt. Your species continues to defy prediction, observed the Krith commander, watching Ito's transformation with what might have been wonder in its crystal eyes. You embrace chaos even within yourselves. Colonel Wei, monitoring these developments from the Rocky Mountain Command Center, allowed himself a thin smile for the first time since the invasion began. We're not just fighting alongside the Concordiat anymore, he told Dr. Williams as she calibrated her frequency disruptors. We're becoming something new together, something neither purely human nor alien. Williams nodded, understanding perfectly. Something the heralds have never encountered before. Rain fell through the smoke-filled London air as Dr. Williams sprinted across Westminster Bridge, clutching her prototype frequency disruptor to her chest. Behind her, the ancient Parliament buildings crumbled as void heralds swarmed through, their historic halls, consuming centuries of human governance in moments. They're targeting seats of order. Williams gasped into her comm as she ducked beneath a fallen lamppost. Government centers, research facilities, power stations, anywhere with established patterns. Colonel Wei's voice crackled through static. Makes sense. These things feed on pattern and order. That's why our military bases fell so quickly. Too much structure. The revelation had struck Williams hours earlier while analyzing herald movements across the globe. It wasn't random destruction. The cosmic entities were drawn like moths to flame toward humanity's most organized systems while often bypassing chaotic refugee camps or improvised settlements. They're not just consuming matter, she'd realized. They're consuming order itself, returning the universe to primal chaos. Now, as she reached the temporary command post in the abandoned underground station, Williams understood why the Concordiat had ultimately failed against the heralds. Their entire civilization was built on perfect order, making them the ideal prey. Meanwhile, at the last remaining military stronghold in the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Wei had reorganized the final human and alien survivors into what he called controlled chaos squads, fighters using completely unpredictable tactics that changed minute by minute. Your next orders will come from these, Wei explained to bewildered soldiers handing out sealed envelopes. Each contains different instructions. Some make sense, some don't. Don't open them until the exact time marked. Illuminar representatives. Light patterns flickered with confusion. This system is wildly inefficient, Wei smiled grimly. Exactly, and that's why it might work. On the battlefield, the results were immediate. Herald advance patterns, which had easily predicted and countered conventional tactics, began showing signs of confusion, hesitating before attacks, sometimes targeting empty buildings while missing human concentrations entirely. In a secure chamber deep beneath the mountain complex, the last representatives of each Concordiat species had gathered for a solemn ceremony. They had reached a profound decision. Rather than face complete extinction, they would entrust their genetic legacy to humanity. Our civilizations are ending, the Krith elder explained to the 7 human volunteers. But aspects of us may survive, through you. The most remarkable transformation occurred in 16-year-old Miguel Reyes, a refugee with no combat training, who agreed to receive the Luminar's light manipulation abilities. As the carefully calibrated machinery completed the process, his skin began emitting a soft glow that shifted with his emotions. "I don't understand the science," Miguel admitted, staring at his luminescent hands. "But I understand what it feels like to have nothing and still find reasons to fight." With his newly acquired abilities, Miguel could create light patterns that temporarily confused and blinded approaching heralds. This unique skill made him the perfect guide for Dr. Williams and her team as they navigated through herald-infested territory toward the final frequency disruptor node. "They see patterns in everything," Miguel explained as he created a dazzling light display that drew herald attention away from their path. "But they can't process truly random light sequences. It's like showing them visual static." The first rays of dawn broke over the ruins of Paris, golden light touching the skeletal remains of the Eiffel Tower. Dr. Williams knelt beside the final frequency disruptor node, her fingers dancing across its controls with practiced precision despite her injuries. Blood from a head wound had dried along her temple, but her eyes remained clear and focused. "Neural synchronization complete," she murmured as the global network finally connected. "Initiating harmonic sequence." The disruptors activated simultaneously, across 6 continents, creating an interwoven pattern of frequencies that resonated with Earth's own geomagnetic field. Williams had realized the fundamental truth: they couldn't fight chaos with order. They needed to fight it with a different kind of chaos, one uniquely human. The technology incorporated elements from all 7 concordiate species, but reconfigured in ways their creators had never imagined. Luminar light harmonics pulsed through Moravian fluid conductors, amplified by Krith crystalline structures and distributed through Vorath gaseous transmission fields. "We're not fighting them," Williams whispered as the system came online. "We're redirecting them." Across the planet, the Void Heralds began to unravel. Their dark energy forms, so absolute in their consumption, now wavered like smoke caught in crosswinds. The harmonic frequencies didn't attack the entities directly, but created a pattern so beautifully, perfectly chaotic, that the heralds couldn't adapt. Miguel stood guard beside Williams, his luminar-infused skin creating dazzling light, patterns that kept smaller herald fragments at bay. "It's working," he breathed in amazement. "They're actually retreating." In the command center, Colonel Wei watched the sensor readings with carefully controlled hope. After decades of fighting unwinnable wars, he had developed a soldier's superstition about celebrating too early. But as herald signatures vanished one by one, even his stoic expression softened. "Send the confirmation signal," he ordered. "All sectors to report herald activity." The responses came in from around the world, silence from the darkness, light returning to the skies. 3 days later, Colonel Wei and Dr. Williams stood amid the ruins of what had once been the Louvre. The historic building had been largely destroyed, but somehow the Mona Lisa had survived, her enigmatic smile now watching over a very different world. "Appropriate," Wei noted, gesturing to the painting. "The ultimate symbol of human creativity survives." Williams nodded. The Concordiate chose better than they knew. They sought chaos as a weapon but found something more powerful: human creativity born from chaos. Together they placed the foundation stone of what would become the Concordiate Memorial, a simple marker bearing an inscription in both human languages and the 7 scripts of their fallen allies. To those who came seeking salvation and found it in the very chaos they once feared. The ceremony was interrupted by an urgent call from a medical station in what remained of Zurich. A child had been born during the final battle, the first since the Herald's defeat. The medical staff were bewildered by her appearance. Faint crystalline patterns marked her skin, glowing with internal light when she cried. the first natural-born human-luminar hybrid. As images of the infant reached them, her tiny hand reached toward the camera. The crystalline patterns shifted, forming symbols the luminar would have recognized. New beginnings require embracing the unknown.